Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us for another Friday briefing at L7 Solutions. Today is September 19th, 2025, and we are actually starting a little series. We are starting a series for you called Behind the Firewall, how MSPs keep you safe. And this week, uh, in behind the firewall, we're going to talk about browser-based attacks. What your security team needs to know. So I've got to pose this question to you: does your security team know how to manage browser-based attacks as it stands? Because this is an important thing. Things are changing because attacks are commonly coming through browsers these days. So things that you need to do with the type of attacks that we're seeing nowadays is one, you need to find a good managed service partner. I know I say this a lot, but it's true. If you have a small business, you need to find a good managed service provider. Uh, Obviously, if you're in South Florida, shameless plug, I'm going to say contact L7 Solutions. But those of you who are all around the country, different parts of the world, find a good managed service provider because the thing is that as a business owner, IT is not what you do. I know a lot of you business owners try to do the IT yourself because it saves money. We try and do a lot of things ourselves. We try and fix our car. We try and do home repairs, and sometimes us trying to do that little repair ends up being a bigger problem, and we really have to call in a professional. Well, when it comes down to your network, your data, the information that you hold that is the private information of your clients. You don't want to do a DIY type of situation on your own company network and a problem arises because at that point it's going to be a little too it's going to be too big. Um, your it's not too big for us, but it's going to be too big of a problem for you because now you have to inform those clients that information has been compromised, and you don't want to go there. You don't want that to happen in your business. You don't want to sleep on your security is basically what I'm saying, because things are different now. You take an active role in knowing what type of attacks have been forged against your network. It's important that you do that as well because that will allow you to know, one, that your MSP is doing what they need to do to help protect you. So we're going to get started with those are just some things that were kind of on my mind a bit that I wanted to make sure that I got out because it's important. This is not something, folks, that we need to sleep on. We need to take this seriously when it comes down to the attacks that are out there. They are prevalent. They are out there and they are hitting people every day. And I know you say, oh, but it hasn't hit me. You really don't know if it's hit you or not. And you're going to see some things in this presentation today that are huge attacks, and you'd never know that they actually entered your network. Okay, so browsers are a necessity and a vulnerability today. We use it for everything because it's our gateway to the internet and all the information it provides to us. We use it for our business applications and cloud services as well, but with great power comes the vulnerabilities that we see in things. Threats today target the functionality of the browser and how we use it. So we have to really pay attention to those threats. It charts the behaviors even of how we're using the browser, and therefore it holds the knowledge that an attacker might use to compromise the data that we are sharing in our company network. So this is why it's important to have a security, uh, some sort of security in place that understands, uh, or maybe I should say, it's better to have some sort of a security team that understands and works constantly to put uh, the proper defensive techniques in in place to help keep you safe, because it's the type of thing that you can have an IT person, but are they really focused on your security? Security is first. We have no option nowadays. Security must be first because we are doing so much on the internet, and we are using things like AI now. And that's going to be our topic next week. We'll get into that. I may mention that before we close today, but we're going to talk about the security in AI as well, or lack thereof at times. Um, but it's important that we pay close attention to this, and we have a team in place that does put the proper uh, techniques in place to help protect our network. Again, shameless plug. L7 does that. We are happy to discuss that with you at any time. Feel free to contact us. But it's truly important that that gets done. So let's start with the first one here. This is our most common. So phishing is still the most prevalent of our browser attacks. This is where attackers craft deceptive emails or create websites that mimic people or sites that you actually are familiar with. And they use these sites and these emails to harvest information like your login credentials, your session cookies, or maybe just to compromise your email. So much of the content used in phishing you will find to be AI generated, which makes it more difficult to spot nowadays. Sorry about that, folks. Um, so so what we see is we find it a lot more, much of a content used in phishing, or excuse me, a lot of the content used in phishing is created by AI. So it's kind of like gone are the days where um, where you could kind of spot the phishing emails because there were misspelled words and the sentences made no sense. Well, now attackers are just getting AI to write it, and AI, writes it perfectly at times. Now, AI can write it in such a way that you go, oh, hey, that's written with AI. Um, but not everybody knows that. The average person doesn't know that, or can't spot that. So it's important to make sure, again, you're working with a competent team that can help you and train you in recognizing these types of attacks. So, um, malicious copy and paste is another browser-based attack. This one is extremely difficult to spot because in the user's view, they're copying and pasting the right items, while in the background, a script is actually being executed to steal information and basically compromise the systems. Uh, this is done through initial infections from websites. It's content monitoring, malicious replacement, and then it executes kind of silently in the background some sort of code that takes that information and runs with it and sends it to the attacker. So these are these are trickier and trickier as we go on with these attacks. You'll see that each of these attacks gets harder and harder to spot. And I'm sure the majority of these attacks you've never even heard of. But what we have to understand is that the attacks are there. They're happening whether we know about them or not. But it's up to us to put the right things in place to make sure that we are not compromised by it. So cross-site scripting, to put it simply, just add some really bad stuff to websites that you typically trust. That's really what it is. These scripts are used to steal your information. That's what it comes down to. They can be triggered by clicking on links or phishing campaigns and a lot of other ways. The scariest part of these attacks is that they can completely bypass content security policies. So the policies that you might have set up in your browser and so on, they just skirt right by that. And because they bypass these security policies, it allows them to redirect or hijack the sites that you're going to and possibly even install keyloggers onto your system. So that means that every time you type something like a username and a password on a website, that information is being logged and being sent to the attacker. Now, the trick with this, and again, as I said, as we go along, you're going to find out that they become more and more difficult to spot. It can take weeks to even know that this vulnerability is there if you don't have a strong security team in place. And I can pretty much guarantee you that the average user or the average small business probably doesn't have the security team in place. Anyway, the average small business doesn't have the security team in place to spot this because, again, security for whatever reason is not seen as a priority, and that should be first priority on our list these days. It should be first priority on our list. So it's important that these types of attacks are monitored and examined by professionals because these are things that, I mean, how many of you have even heard of cross-site scripting? Probably not many. Uh, and so the thing is that companies like L7 Solutions and other MSPs who are strong in cybersecurity, we've heard of it. We know how to help fight against it, and how to help protect you and your company's networks. So, cross-site request forgery. Um, Common uses for this attack include fund transfers from banks, account modifications, or simply removing data from accounts. And the way that it typically works is that the victim logs into a legitimate website or a web application and receives a session cookie, what's called a cookie, basically saying, okay, hey, we've got some information here. This is what we're gathering. This is the information that's going to allow you to move through the site, and it's logging as you go to keep it simple. Um, it's a little bit more in depth than that, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. So the user visits an attacker controlled website containing hidden malicious requests. And then the browser automatically includes valid session cookies with forged requests. So the good mingles with the bad. And then the final step is unauthorized action. Target application processes requests as legitimate, executing unwanted operations, whatever those may be. As I mentioned, transfer of funds from bank accounts, account modifications, are actually just deleting the data altogether, none of which is good. So, browser extensions. This again is where it's so important to partner with an MSP who puts cybersecurity first. Everyone loves their favorite browser extension, but how is that extension using your information? So what happens is that with browser extensions, uh, the extensions can end up giving excessive permissions to that extension to get all sorts of information like your browsing data, your passwords, personal information, which far exceeds the normal functionality. Um, and we, as users, your typical users, don't review permission requests often after installation of these extensions. We're just looking to, we're just so happy to have that extension attached to our browser, and it helps make things easier for us. Makes us where we don't have to think as much at times. But then there are malicious updates. So legitimate extensions can be compromised through malicious updates that end up injecting harmful code. And then there's data exfiltration. Compromised extensions can start stealing your browsing history, or your form data, or authentication tokens, and sensitive business information without detection by traditional security tools. And then there's the supply chain attacks, which an extension dependencies and third-party libraries create additional attack vectors. Um, Compromised development tools can inject malicious code into extension builds. Put it simply, is it's just another way that bad stuff is uh, put into your browser. So organizations should implement extension whitelisting, regular security audits, employee training on safe extension practices to mitigate these risks. Again, this is something that your MSP provides to you because you can't really do it on your own as a business owner because it's not what you do. Uh, but a proper MSP with years of experience, L7 Solutions, over 23 years of experience here in South Florida, a proper MSP will be able to help you in all of these areas to fight against these particular extensions. Now, malvertising. So malvertising uses legitimate advertising networks to inject malicious content to users under basically the cloak of normal advertisements. Now, these ads, which can end up reaching millions around the world, can contain things like exploit kits, ransomware, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, and they can include redirect scripts. So, scripts that actually send you to other areas unbeknownst to you, and next thing you know, you have something else popping up on your site that could really become a bad scenario for you. Now, because these scripts are put on legitimate ad networks, they typically bypass any of the normal security filters. So just clicking the ads can trigger downloads to your system and network, compromising all of your confidential client and company data. That's not a good thing. Many sites you have frequented have probably been compromised by malvertising at some point. So it's important to train users to be vigilant when clicking on ads in your business, even if it's a trusted site. So so that's where training comes in, and your MSP should have should have the ability to train your users in helping to spot these things. Let's see that last slide there. We did have here. Um, so we had ad network infiltration, and this is just the process in which it goes. They infiltrates the network, then it drops a malicious payload, then it goes into the user interaction here, and then it bypasses the security. So it's kind of that process that, again, you take note of that, and it's really, I mean, to put it simply, folks, it's about users just being vigilant. I think we've gotten to the point that we expect the software, the tools to automatically stop everything. And don't get me wrong, the tools I know that we use here at L7 Solutions, they do stop pretty much. I mean, knock on wood, uh, it's been a very good stack of tools that we've used that has not allowed uh, anyone to be compromised. But anything is possible. Anything is possible. And so what happens is that um, we have gotten so used to the tools protecting us that we stop thinking and we stop questioning. And so the training that an MSP can help provide is it helps to train your employees, your workers, to still think through, why am I getting this email that's asking for an iTunes uh, gift card, things like that. There are all sorts of different types of things that your users should be trained on. So, how do you defend against these attacks? First, you work with a professional team like L7 Solutions. You work with a team that will implement strong security policies, educate your team, monitor. So basically, using monitoring to the point that they can identify the malicious traffic, unusual browsing patterns, and potential data exfiltration attempts. Work with a team that will handle your patch management, okay, of your systems and OSs, and provide endpoint protection, layered protection, if possible, and implement access control, preferably zero trust, which zero trust is becoming the thing now to want, if it gets past, any other items like your firewall or so on that you might have in place, zero trust just finally says, nah, nothing's getting by. It's gonna have to be allowed. So it's important um, that that you work with a team that knows how to build out a solution like this, because this is what it takes. This is what it takes to stay safe, because not every user is going to pay attention to what they click. We'd like to believe that with the proper training, they would, and the tools that we use might not be as necessary, but that's not really the case. They're going to click on things. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so having the proper tool set in place helps to keep your company data and your client data safe. So what must be done to stay safe? Always be aware of the known attacks and vulnerabilities and run routine security assessments. Um, Empower your users by training them to spot these attacks and become an integral part of your company's security. So, that was what I was just discussing with training the users. Listen, as much as we train, they're not always, something's going to get by. Something will get by. But also use a comprehensive security stack that includes layers of security, and hopefully finalizing with an end all be all of zero trust. We don't trust anything to get by. And contact L7 Solutions and let us help you implement a comprehensive security structure for your network. And let us start by signing you up for one of our cybersecurity risk assessments. because that's where we'll find all the areas of your network, your systems, which includes your firewalls, your switches, everything, and your browsers, of course. We will find all the vulnerabilities in those things. So that's going to do it for us today. Um, Again, this is L7 Solutions. My name is Ken Tucker. I'm the sales director here at L7 Solutions. You can reach me at ktucker at l7solutions.com. You can visit our website at www.l7solutions.com. And you can reach us by phone at 954 573 1300. Um, Reach out to us. This is truly an important topic for all businesses. And whether you're in South Florida or somewhere else in the US, we can handle those cybersecurity risk assessments for you as well. Um, the cybersecurity risk assessment will help provide you and your current IT. For you may have just the IT guy, and that's okay. That's okay if you're comfortable and you like that IT person, that's fine. But do yourself a favor and do them a favor. Do a cybersecurity risk assessment. Find out where those vulnerabilities are. Know where the holes are, and then let them fill those holes, fill those gaps, and protect you and protect your clients. And with that, I'm going to say have a nice weekend. Have a wonderful next week. I want to see you here next week as well because we're going to talk about security within our security outside of AI and how we need to be careful with how we use AI. AI is not going anywhere, but it is, we must learn how to use, we must learn how to wield that power. But again, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next week.